Most people think they already understand why their cat follows them to the bathroom. They laugh about it. They call it weird, clingy, maybe even a little annoying, because in our world, the bathroom is the one place that's supposed to be private. But what if that's exactly why your cat follows you there? Not because they don't respect your space, but because, from their perspective, something about that moment doesn't make sense. Think about what actually happens right before your cat appears at the door. You stand up, you walk in a specific direction, you disappear behind a barrier that suddenly cuts off access to you completely. And for you, that's nothing, it's just a routine. But for your cat, that moment creates a break in something they rely on far more than you realize. Continuity. Cats don't understand your day the way you do. They don't think in terms of schedules or tasks. They understand the world through presence, where things are, where they move, where they stop, and most importantly, where you are. So when you walk into another room and the door stays open, your cat still has access to you. They can see you, hear you, follow if they want to. But the bathroom is different. The door closes and suddenly you don't just leave, you disappear from their sensory map. Your movement stops at a hard boundary. Your scent pools at the door instead of continuing. Your sound becomes muffled, distorted, harder to track. To your cat, you are both there and not there, and that contradiction is exactly what pulls them in. This is where most people get it wrong. They assume this behavior means their cat is dependent on them. But it's not about dependence, it's about certainty. Cats are often described as independent, and they are. But independence doesn't mean they enjoy unpredictability. They tolerate uncertainty. They adapt to it. But when given a choice, they prefer to know. They prefer confirmation over guessing. So instead of sitting in another room wondering where you went, they follow. They position themselves where they can restore the connection, where they can see you again, hear you clearly, rebuild that continuous sense of where you exist in their world, not because they can't be without you, but because they'd rather not lose track of you. And here's something even more interesting. It's not just the fact that you left. It's how predictable the bathroom moment is. Cats are masters of pattern recognition. They notice the small things you don't even register, the way you shift your weight before standing up, the direction you turn, the pace of your steps. Over time, these tiny signals form a pattern your cat learns perfectly. They know what comes next before you even reach the door. That's why sometimes it feels like they're already there waiting. Not because they're guessing, but because they've seen this exact sequence happen hundreds of times. To them, the bathroom isn't random. It's a repeatable event with a clear beginning and a very predictable disruption in access to you. So instead of reacting after you disappear, they move before the break even happens. But there's one part of this that flips the entire situation in a way most people never consider. We think of the bathroom as a place where we are most private, but from your cat's perspective, it might actually be one of the moments where you are most vulnerable. You're not moving around, you're not fully alert, your posture changes, you're seated, still, focused on something that isn't your surroundings. And for an animal that reads body language constantly, that matters. Cats are wired to notice shifts in physical state. In the wild, stillness can mean rest, but it can also mean weakness. So when you disappear behind a door and enter a state where your body becomes quiet and less responsive, your cat doesn't interpret that as leave me alone. They interpret it as a moment worth checking, a moment worth staying close to. Not out of fear, not out of anxiety, but out of instinctive awareness. And when you put all of this together, the behavior starts to feel very different. Your cat isn't just following you into a random room. They're responding to a very specific situation. You disappeared in a way that breaks their ability to track you. You entered a predictable routine they've learned over time, and you shifted into a state that looks, to them, unusually still. So they do the simplest thing their instincts guide them toward. They close the gap, they re-establish access, they stay connected to something that suddenly became uncertain. And once you start seeing it that way, that little moment at the bathroom door doesn't feel quite as random anymore, because your cat isn't just showing up out of curiosity. They're stepping into a space where your routine, your presence, and your vulnerability all overlap, and choosing, in their own quiet way, to stay part of it. And when you look at it from that angle, something else starts to become clear. Your cat isn't just reacting to you, they're participating in you. Cats don't build relationships the way we do. They don't sit down and decide who they care about. They don't announce attachment. They build it through repetition, through small, quiet moments that happen over and over again until they become part of the structure of their world. The same chair, the same window, the same time you wake up, and you, where you go, when you move, what you do next. So when your cat follows you to the bathroom, sometimes it's not just about restoring access. It's about staying inside the rhythm they've built around you. It's a continuation of something, a pattern they've learned and chosen to be part of. That's why this behavior doesn't always look the same. Some cats walk right in like they belong there. Some sit just outside the door, quietly waiting. Some scratch. Some only check once, then leave. But underneath those differences, the intention is often similar. They're keeping track of something that matters to them, not the room, you. And yes, curiosity is part of it. Cats are naturally drawn to closed doors. Anything that blocks access becomes interesting. But curiosity alone doesn't explain why your cat cares specifically when you are behind that door. Because if it were just curiosity, they'd react the same way to every closed space. But they don't. It's different when it's you. That's why a bathroom door gets attention, while a closet door might not, because one contains something they're attached to, and the other is just a space. There's also something subtle happening that most people never notice. Your cat isn't just following your movement, they're following your consistency. They've watched you repeat this routine day after day, and in doing so, they've quietly woven themselves into it. So when you get up and walk toward that door, it's not just your action anymore, it's part of a shared pattern. And when that pattern suddenly excludes them, even briefly, they step back into it. For some cats, this shows up as insistence. They want the door open. They push, scratch, wait, meow, not because they need anything specific inside the room, but because being shut out of the pattern feels wrong. For others, it shows up more softly. They sit nearby. They listen. They stay just close enough to confirm that everything still makes sense. Same behavior, different expression. And then there are the cats who don't follow at all, which, at first, might feel like the opposite, but it's not always that simple. Some cats track you without moving, they listen for your footsteps, they recognize the sounds of the room, they wait for the moment your routine completes. Their version of following just happens without their body needing to be there. Others feel secure enough in the environment that the break doesn't register as something they need to resolve, not because they don't care, but because the connection feels stable enough not to question. So the absence of this behavior doesn't mean the absence of attachment, it just means your cat expresses that attachment differently. But when your cat does follow you, especially consistently, it usually points to something quiet but meaningful. You are part of how they organize their world, not in a dramatic, emotional way like humans describe love, but in something more subtle, more structural. Your presence is something they reference, something they track, something they prefer not to lose even briefly if they don't have to. And maybe that's the part that changes how you see it. Because from the outside it looks like a cat refusing to give you privacy, but from their side it's something much simpler. You moved somewhere that didn't make sense to them, so they followed not to interrupt you but to make the world feel continuous again. And once you notice that small, slightly inconvenient moment at the bathroom door starts to feel different. It's not just a habit, it's not just curiosity, it's your cat choosing, again and again, not to let the connection between you disappear, even for a minute. And in their own quiet way, that might be one of the clearest ways they have of saying, "I'd rather be where you are than guess where you went."